This weekend, Ryan just wants to fish, Andy is avoiding tornadoes, and we check out the hottest yearly update of a classic shooter. I'm Ryan,
I'm Andy.
and this is Weekend Rental, episode 204. All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode. Andy, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great now.
Yeah, now? Oh, yes. Weight off your shoulders, right?
Yes. I've sold my other house,
Nice.
which has been a gigantic weight off your back. It was the day of was extremely stressful because the realtor, first of all, said, "Oh, I've never seen one this close to the wire. Like, papers weren't ready. We had to postpone till later in the afternoon." And she's like, "Oh, I don't know if it's going to happen. Hopefully we
What?
can get this done." And finally had a time set, 3:00. We're going in. On the way there, every single radio station just blaring tornado warning. There's tornadoes in effect. There's tornadoes in the area of my house, my previous house.
Oh, God.
And I am on my way to relinquish ownership of it. So I don't know if I've ever had that amount of stress and anxiety that was maybe not like totally warranted,
Right.
but the what ifs of that scenario.
Yes.
were-
It sounds very
were
similar to
high.
the time that I traded in a car that I knew was on fire as soon as I parked it at the dealership. And I ran in, had him sign the title and ran the fuck out. Except you had a little more
Yep.
money on the line. I was only getting like $500 for that thing. Yeah, that's a worst case scenario for sure. Plus you got stuck doing last minute repairs, which is to me insane
Yeah.
because that's sort of the stuff that comes up like 6 weeks prior to a close,
Mhm.
not the sort of
Yep.
thing you do like 2 weeks before.
And that's why all it came down to a deadline type thing. Like, so
So that had to be the buyer's request, like last minute, right? Because like it couldn't have been a condition for closing. Otherwise, that would
Yeah,
have
it
come out
was.
sooner. Was it really?
it was the bank not getting their shit done in time.
Jesus.
Yep.
Wells Fargo, I'm sure. Bastards.
I don't know where it was,
Just kidding.
but
Yeah.
Yep,
Well,
that's what it was.
congrats on not having two mortgages. I'm sure that's not like
Yes.
the funnest situation to be in.
Yep.
I mean, I have one and it sucks. So
So yeah, I'm ready to spend some money now.
yeah, hit
On
the
dumb
casino.
money. Yep.
Buy complete and boxed everything, all the Pokemons, all of that stuff.
I mean, that's not dumb. That's just investment.
Yeah, that's
I'm
true.
looking to spend dumb money.
Rare Egyptian cats that you like adopt from 4 states over and realize that they're just tabby cats anyway, and you paid way too much money, like every other idiot that does that.
That sounds pretty dumb.
I have some
Yeah.
startup ideas, so if you wanna,
Yeah, there we go.
I can get real stupid. Next week, just pictures of me in the Bahamas.
Yep.
I'm networking, Andy. Networking. Well, it's exciting.
When
So
I-
are you?
When I was asking about runway, I meant where I'm flying to.
So are you working on that lake property deal then as like a second stage of this, or are you still figuring that out?
Yes, eventually. That was the other flip on that switched on this was the day of, or the exact day after. My parents signed a deal with their realtor to get listed. So it's been
Their
from
house.
getting one house ready
Yeah.
to sell to immediately getting
Jesus.
another one to sell. So
Why not just live in a constant state of panic and fear, Andy? It sounds
Yeah, right, why not?
fantastic.
at some point this has got to be like a consultant. I could be a consultant job or something
Oh
on
yeah.
how to do this, but
Wow. Not envious of that, but I mean, congrats on getting through it. I know it was a hectic couple weeks, I'm sure.
so I don't have a lot to talk about
'Cause
as
you
far
just
as video
lifed.
games.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do have something related to tornadoes
Oh,
that we talked about.
I saw this in the topic, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, I watched Twisters, which
Mhm.
is, I guess, the sequel. I mean, there's that. I'll
course.
give it that. For the most part, they did a very good job of not saying like callbacks to the original all that much. You know, it's not like oh, here's this guy, he's here. Oh, Helen Hunt's back, and you know,
Yeah, they
all
kept
this.
they kept that cow from flying off the screen a second time.
Yep,
Because he was a
exactly.
survivor. A lot of people don't know that he did survive the first Twister. Could have been back.
Yep. That said, a lot of the characters you could be like, oh, this is just a remap of this
Yes.
character from the other one. You know.
It is a by numbers sequel, but I think when you wait 20 years, that's probably okay because no one knows what the fuck you're referencing anyway.
You know. And how many people from the first one are dead at this point too? So it's like, well,
Yeah. And the plot on that one, I feel like, is no less absurd than the like big vat of shit with like cut up Coke cans to make them fly. I mean, it's all the same level of dumb. So I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you. Like in watching that film, I thought it was perfectly serviceable for what it was, but yeah, it didn't do anything to like, I don't know, make a legacy, which is, it's crazy to think about. Like Twisters, I mean, the sequel that came out so much longer, people forget that, like, that was back when there were blockbusters, and that movie was the summer blockbuster, and everybody fucking watched it. It was like Twisters and Titanic. Like everyone from our generation has seen both of them, sadly. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, and it does do a lot of the same stuff. Like I said, the characters are a lot of the same remapped, but they kind of flip sides a little bit on how it starts out. And there's a little bit different stuff going on. For a large chunk of that movie, it is just a like chick flick romance.
Yes, I was gonna say
where it's like
yes. The romance is much more central to this thing. And it's the same typical chick flick romance thing. Like it's the Hallmark version of it, really. Like
yeah.
new chick comes to town, rough around the edges, dude. Both hate each other, and the next thing you know, they're like running off together. You know what I mean? Like, thanks, Hallmark.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all right.
I agree. That is the right synopsis. Like it's a perfectly serviceable movie that I'll never watch.
I don't know.
Again.
For sure, I'd rather watch the first one.
Yeah.
Pretty much every single time. There's nothing that they outdid or did better in this one.
No, I agree. It really is about the same. I guess they up the ante a little bit because like they save an entire town from like devastation. Well, they don't do anything actually for the most part, but like they upped the stakes a little bit at the end instead of, just everyone in the film dying from the first one.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would love to know, like, watch that movie with the commentary track of just all weathermen in it, just to be like, no, that's not how that works. That's not how that works.
They're all con artists anyway. They don't actually know.
Well, plenty of it, they are defying the laws of physics. So I think,
yeah.
So that part, where the person next to you just flies off into space into the tornado, who is like way heavier than you.
That makes total sense.
Makes sense.
He was bloated, full of gas.
Yeah, some helium in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I watched that way closer when it came out, and I had the same takeaway as you. It's like it's just fine. Yeah. I'm not gonna be mad about it. Like we make sequels of dumber shit, and they do like 4 times a year. So whatever. I watched a movie, but I'm saving that for later. Actually, I watched a few because Svengoolie and whatnot. But the more amazing thing I think since the last time we've recorded is I actually played video games other than Sea of Thieves, which I am excited for. Just side note on Sea of Thieves, new season, the 22nd, Reaper focused, There's gonna be some cool stuff like Cannons of Rage, a portable cannon that will explode and nuke your boat also, but can be used to be mounted and shot anywhere. Very cool. So excited about that. I only played a little bit of Sea of Thieves. But I did take advantage of Game Pass finally. I mentioned it, I think maybe in the last recording, but I've been interested in Dredge for quite a while. And I was like, this is going to come to Game Pass eventually. And sure enough, it did. So Dredge, for anyone who's not familiar, it's like they pitch it as like a cutesy sort of indie game where you play like a fisherman. And you're out on the sea, like catching fish. And that's what it is. But then like immediately there's undertones of like sinister, like things happening, which is cool. My problem with this game is I read it's like 14-ish hours or whatever. Is
Really?
like
Wow.
is they're trying to tell a narrative, right? And they're trying to build suspense, but they're doing that in a way that like the gameplay is tedious as fuck. So everything's a quick time event, right? Like you go fishing, you put the line down, you can upgrade your equipment. It all gets easier over time, as it should in any video game. But like you're pressing the button prompts to make the fish come faster. You're doing the dredge, but you like play this mini game that's fucking horrendous where you like bounce the cursor back and forth. And then like you got to do inventory management, so you can only hold so much. If you hit anything, your ship gets damaged. If a weird sea creature comes up and bites you, your ship gets damaged. So it's like all this meticulous, like tedious management of stuff in these days that are like super short in game. Like the time doesn't pass unless you're actively moving your boat or fishing. So you've got options, but like a day in the game only allows you to do so much, right? Like I can fish or I can do an objective, and I might not even get the objective done, but I can't do both for the most part. And the reason you have to stop is because you have a, like, I forget what it's called, like a fear or a sanity meter. And it's like this eye in the top of the screen. So the later at night it gets, and the less you've slept, like the more delusional and like fucking hallucinogenic your screen becomes, to the point where like you're pretty much going to be guaranteed to wreck your boat and die and have to go back to your last save. So it's just not worth it. Right. And all that stuff I get is I understand it's there, I believe, from like a pacing perspective, right? To like give you something to like slowly drip feed to and not just blow through the story. But it really just like sucks because I don't enjoy that stuff. Like that's not fun. Like, and the more I play it, the less fun it gets. Like, yes, there's the initial excitement of like, oh, I'm upgrading my rod. I'm getting a new like prop, but you realize like at the end of the day, it doesn't change anything because you're all feeding the same like base level, like algorithm of like get enough cash to do the next thing. Hey, got a buddy behind you.
That's here.
Cat's here. And then it gets into this weird like wackadoo story, but then like that's all held back by like you haven't upgraded your ship enough, or you haven't bought this new rod, or we need to wait 3 days because come back and talk to me later. To the point where like,
so then it's all that stuff all over again every day.
100%. And it's not like I don't like any of it. I like the aesthetic. It just feels like the game is working against you as the player after a while. And I wish it wasn't, because like I like what it has to offer, but also it's not super subtle in a lot of this stuff. Like I know it's going to take a twist, and like you pick up on that pretty early on. So it's like, it's really going to have to do something like crazy to make me feel like it deserves more than my time. And I've given it like probably I'm 5 hours in, let's say. And I don't dislike it. It's just like, I feel like it doesn't value my time as the player, which sucks.
So like the mini game stuff and all that, is it kind of like plate balancing where you're, we even see of Thieves is a lot of like you're doing the sales and then you're going downstairs to do this, and are you doing it all at the same time, or is it more like intentional about like each thing you're doing?
No. So like as an example, you'll go to a fishing spot. Like there will be splashes in the water. You can drive to it. You can like, and depending on the depth and depending on the thing, you can kind of tell what kind of fish species it's going to be. You have to have the right equipment for it. And you literally drive up to it and a prompt comes on your screen. You'll press the button, and then like, let's say it's radar, like they're using it as radar. And then it's literally a red ticker bar that goes back and forth. And you just need to hit the button when it hits the same safe green space. So it's literally like the laziest version of like quick timing of it. And that's everything. Everything that you're actively doing in that part of the game is that. And I get so fucking tired of it. Because like that's
Yeah,
what
doing that over
feeds
and
the rest
over.
of the game. You need to do that to make money, and you need to do that to find certain items, and it's not fun.
Yeah, I could see that getting old real quick. Even just like, in the old Skyrim games and stuff like that, where it's like the lock picking just being the one thing that you need to do every once in a while, how annoying that got.
Sure.
I can't imagine like if
Yeah.
the core things that you're doing is just, yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be too much.
And you're very hampered by like your boat speed. Like in a day, I can get to a neighboring island. Like, and it's a pretty small map, like, but it takes a full day. And then I gotta rest. So it's like, I don't know. I did just unlock something where, well, I unlocked it a while ago where I can like teleport back to like a certain base on a cooldown, but it it feels like they did that to draw out their game instead of make it like proper pacing. Is kind of how I feel about it. And I don't want to be mad about it because like there's a lot to like about Dredge. It's cool. I recommend people play it. I just wish it connected with me in a different way because like it is those mini games that just kind of ruin it for me. And I just find it super tedious, which is a bummer.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if they're gating things by that. Yeah, that's I'm finding a pattern here though. The last time we played Sea of Thieves, we spent the entire night fishing. And now you're
Yeah.
going to a single player game doing
Yeah.
fishing now.
You're not wrong because I had thought about that because like the day before or the same night I played Dredge, I spent 2 hours just fishing in Sea of Thieves because it was the last day of Festival of Fishing. So it's like, well, I at least want to max out to 8 and I want to hit 80. So like I just went and fished a bunch. And then I went and did a different kind of fishing. And the best part about the Sea of Thieves session was I kept running into this one other sloop in the same area I was at, right? And I kept watching them on the peripheral. I was just solo. So I'm like, I hope they don't fuck with me. I played the whole night, like 2.5 hours, got my level 80. And then my thing lately has been I take the supply crate at the end of my night and I load everything up on my boat and I lay it on the pier for someone to maybe come across and get like free loot. And I was doing that and effing around and I was like, well, I got all these fireworks. I should just shoot these off. So I spent like 2-3 minutes just shooting off every flare and firework I had. Then I see this sloop that's been in my area just like kind of cruise past slowly. And I was like, fuck it. So I grabbed the supply crate and I just like sailed like I wasn't going towards them. And then I got behind a boulder and just completely turned and like went at them. Like I was going to attack them almost. And I think I had them shit in their pants. And I got right on top of them, dropped the sail or raised the sails. And then like started chit chatting with them. And they're like, and I'm like, hey, you guys want a supply crate? They're like, oh, yes. And it was clearly like they thought I was coming to kill them. And they're like, oh, he's logging off. Okay, we'll take that stuff, kind sir. So that was kind of fun. But I think it's a pretty fun interaction to do in that game when you're logging off and have nothing to lose anyway. It's like, well, so they misread me and sink me, but either get sunk for no reason or did a good deed. So
Right, you're out the supply crate anyway. So
yeah, 100%, and maybe some repair costs on the boat. But yeah, you're right. I need to branch out. All my video games are boats and fishing. It's a problem. Maybe this is a sign I need to like move to a coastal area or maybe Duluth so I can catch a boat out and just become a fisherman commercially.
yeah, but then you have to like put VR in. You'd be out in the boat, but then have VR in, and then just pretend like you're fishing in a real boat. That'd be good.
It would feel so real with the rocking of the waves. Yeah.
I have a fishing one on VR. It's pretty good.
I have the one that's free and it's all right, but I think there are better ones.
Yeah. There's one that's like everything around you is just like super realistic. It's like just actual like 4K pictures everywhere
Nice.
around you. So and you can just like put up a YouTube video
Oh, really?
inside and you can just sit there and watch YouTube and fish. It's pretty good.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I said games. So I played Dredge. Then I also was like, fuck it. I'm going to play Doom the Dark Ages. That's a game. I played it cloud. Like I know the point of like these Doom games is like, let's see what my PC can do on max specs. And like, so I completely did it the wrong way. And I know that like the draw distances were bad. And, like occasionally the frame rate didn't break up, but the visuals did. Um, Doom: The Dark Ages is fucking weird, man. Like, first of all, these new Doom games, like I don't understand the need to tell a narrative in them. It's a game about running around just like blowing shit up. Like we don't have to build this story of like, it's fine. Like if you want to make it Diablo-esque cutscenes to explain why we're killing things, you can, but I think we all got it at this point. But that game is so weird because, you can see from like the cover art and like any of the gameplay, like you start out with a shield. You unlock melee weapon, like a melee attack that's pretty brutal. I mean, that was in other games too. That's pretty brutal up front. And then you also unlock this like ability to like kind of like toss your shield. Now, granted, I'm only 3 stages in, but it almost doesn't. I mean, it is a Doom game. It feels like a Doom game, but it doesn't. It almost plays completely different to me. What it reminds me a lot of is Bulletstorm, because like it's all about like attacking in the right way to cause combo reactions, and then melee being like the more brutal upfront thing. So you're almost, and like it's got this shield dash to close the gap, and then like you also cause concussive damage, right? So I find myself in this game almost never playing with the guns. It's all about repelling attacks with the shield and closing the gap across the map and just exploding stuff. So it's just like in the face, like gore and punching, and then executions, and then on to the next group. So it's very fun. Like it plays like the newer Doom games do, where it's all about chaining combos and like momentum and stuff. But it is very little, at least early stages, or the way I'm playing it, about gunplay, because it doesn't need to be, and it's honestly less satisfying when you could just like punch somebody up close and like execute them. So I don't know. Like, I don't know what to think about it. It's gorgeous, even on cloud, but it just feels really different.
So the shield, though, the thing I worried about that was like, oh, now it's a parry and defensive system, and that's what I feel like Doom shouldn't be. It should just be like, I am the weapon. Everybody needs to get out of the way, you know?
Yeah, I would say it's parry. Parry in the sense that in most cases that's an easy kill if the timing lines up for it. There are a couple enemies early on that require the shield to like break them, but like it honestly, the parry thing they throw in your face, but like if you're just going at people, like they're not even gonna get the chance to attack you, so it doesn't really even matter. I suppose if you're playing to what they want you to play, then the parry becomes important, but you'll be just fine without it. Like I don't even give anybody the time of day with that. Just like, nah, I'm going to punch you in the face before you even think about throwing anything at me. So
yeah.
It's kind of funny too that first stage, one of the first stages, like there's like a mega like demon that they spawn in. It's like fighting in the background while you eventually take it down. But I could not stop thinking about like this is the end, where they like sever that like giant demon's like cock off with like that laser beam as he's ascending to heaven. That's all I kept thinking about.
Yeah. I played the first of the newer ones.
Yeah.
I never played Eternal.
Right, me too.
But I do appreciate how they just like, it's just like glowy bits just everything explodes into glowy bits.
Mm-hmm.
It is like, here's a video game,
Yeah, and I think that was my takeaway from it too, was like, this is a game that doesn't need to be made anymore because it's just like the most video game, but like it did the thing, right? Like it brought me back to like the moments of gaming like from 2 generations ago that just drew you in. Like it's the Gears of War algorithm, or maybe like a good Halo game back in the day where it's just like, this is just destruction and I'm a beast and this is a ton of fun. And this game still does that. It just feels a lot different when the gun doesn't seem like the most powerful thing in the game. Like it's just visceral, like physical destruction. So
yeah, and I think that's kind of what they did with earlier ones with the glory kill thing. That's what you really wanted to do, was like get up in them and just like rip them apart in some sort of way.
Yep. Yeah. And this is definitely that. I will probably continue to play through it. I don't know if I'll finish it, but a damn good time for now.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that Doom after like 3 and like after that it was like, ooh, I don't know, Doom. What do you do with that anymore?
Well, it's funny
And then
too
they
because
just
like I was thinking about 3 specifically because like everyone like the reviews were good on it. People were like, it's just monster closets, and I was like, that's all Doom the Dark Ages is too, but instead of a closet, I have a plane. So like I'm in monster planes. Like I walk to the plane, like 100 things spawn up. Like so I'm not in a dark closet with 4 things. It's just like 400, but it's the same concept, right? Like guide player to fun and destruction. And yeah.
Yep.
I do miss like the survival, like horror sort of elements of 3 though. Like that had its own vibe that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, they do have secrets, right? Like they have different
Yeah.
areas you can find stuff like that, which is kind of fun for exploration.
Yep. Yeah. In this game, this Dark Ages one is like very heavy on that. Like it gives you a rating at the end of like what percentage of stuff you unlocked. And I'm like, well, I give 0 shits, but that's kind of cool that I only got like 20% or whatever, you know?
Huh.
Yeah. So trying to take advantage of Game Pass, at least.
Yeah.
And feel like a gamer again.
I'm looking at the notes here. I'm going to assume you played the new Bungie game Marathon and you didn't run a marathon.
Yes, running a marathon this podcast would not have happened because cardiac arrest, stroke, or self-execution would have probably been in play. But yeah, I didn't even play a marathon. I know you touched on it and like kind of made me aware of it. And like, I was like, what the fuck is marathon? Right. So like, and that's been kind of the reception marathon where there was an open alpha beta, which it seems like everyone immediately dropped off of. Then this week, the controversy came out where they realized that they had plagiarized assets that had been brought in early in the development cycle from somebody who was no longer there. So I guess their way of dealing with that was like they had a live stream scheduled, but instead of doing the live stream, they just read on air an apology on Twitch and then didn't live stream, which you could just not do the live stream and just put out something. And then I was reading an article today about somebody who was from the Bungie camp, had worked on the networking side of the Destiny games and like been brought into Marathon and like how toxic that environment was and like leadership there was bad. And all of this is like really just kind of making me realize that like, I think everybody sort of realizes that Marathon has like almost no chance. And then understanding what that means for Bungie, especially since they're now owned by Sony. And like, this could very well be like, in all probability, this is the end of Bungie, right? And Bungie, as we know it, is not what Bungie was, but this could very well be the death of the company this year.
Right. Yeah. And even like recovering from Destiny,
yes,
the way they did too.
Yes, people forget.
Impressive. So I don't know if I could completely count them out, if just because they have a rough first few months or whatever with Marathon, but as live service games have been launching and going lately,
right,
it's pretty tough to stand out and get a chance. And I just don't think Marathon, like nobody's going to be like, oh yeah, the new Marathon. Like,
yeah, it's not what people want out of that, right?
Yeah,
I mean, from what I've been reading, it's an extraction shooter, which like those are for people that are hardcore into that stuff. That's not like for the average. That's not for Bungie's average market, right?
No, Bungie's it's not Tom Clancy's Marathon.
and I could see where they'd want to grab go in that direction, having like staked out what Destiny became, but Destiny is still not that. Destiny is very much like, I mean, not even a looter shooter. Like Destiny is almost like its own goddamn ecosystem. Like it's just so weird in the way you progress, but yeah, I don't know. Like I'm not interested at all. And I was reading too that like the people who played the beta were not like overly impressed with the gunplay. And it's like, if Bungie can't even get the gunplay right, because like you can say what you want about Destiny and Destiny 2, best gunplay, like fantastic, right? Like straight out of Halo plus Evolved, like it felt so good and intuitive. If they're not nailing that, then what are they doing? Like that's their bread and butter.
Yeah, that's bad news. And yeah, on Sony's end, like if this one doesn't work out after Concord, holy crap! Like that's enough to really damage a company, even as big as Sony.
Yeah. Yeah, they can't afford another loss like that.
No.
So we'll see. It's like it's wild to me to think like what Bungie once was, and like, you know, and it's kind of cool too because Marathon, right? Like Marathon is harkening back to like what they it was like what launched the company and made them notable back on like, you know, the Mac. So like it's cool to have a callback and like reference that series, but I don't know. They haven't been able to really. I don't feel like they've met even like rough expectations with Destiny 2 of what they had like proposed Destiny 1 was going to be. Like and I played a lot of Destiny 2 and I played through Destiny 1, but it just didn't have the staying power for me. So
Yeah, and even like playing all the Destiny games, like there's so many spots that I'd be like, oh, they made this decision. Like, I'm not to say it was the wrong decision, but it's not the one I would have made,
right.
you know,
Right. Yeah,
on
100%.
different things.
So weird. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting year. I fully expect, like, I don't know if this is getting physical, but this might be one of those games that you buy physical and just expect it to go the way of Concord and then get it like VGA graded. There's a good chance. Also, well, we'll get into it later. Well, no, we'll touch on it now because I'm mad about it. So we're going to talk about it later. It's the weekend rental. I went out to go play the weekend rental tonight. Like I ran out of time earlier. Didn't run out of time. I forgot about it. And I was like, oh shit, I have to play this game. So I go to play it on my hacked PlayStation Classic, right? Turns out that's the one ROM I don't have on there. I do have it, however, on my EverDrive for my TurboGrafx, but my TurboGrafx is in a box, God knows, somewhere in the back. Anyway, so I was like, what other options do I have? Turns out it's on it's like Arcade Archives on the Switch too, right? So it's like, fine, I'll just download it there and pay whatever. When you download shit after this latest update in terms of service stuff on the Switch console, it is now not the download. They're like, here's your virtual game card. And I just got so fucking pissed before I played the game. I was like, fuck you, Nintendo. I hate this shit. Like, you're so stupid. Anyway, that's side tangent. Don't like it.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on. I'm watching my son have two Switches out at the same time, and virtual cards are flying back and forth between them, and I'm like,
What
don't know
is
what's happening.
this? It's the stupidest solution to a problem that already they had their own fix. Like, it was good. Log in with the profile. What are we doing? Good Lord. Yeah. Nintendo.
It's weird.
It is. I agree. Weird is the right way to put it. Blueprints. I'm playing some more.
Yeah, I'm closing the book on Blueprints.
Yeah. It's weird because like sometimes I like log into my PlayStation or my Xbox app to claim the points. It'll be like, I don't know, 10 in the morning or like 2 in the afternoon on like a weekday. And I see people playing Blueprints. I don't know what's going on, but you know.
Yep, exactly.
Get through it then?
As much as I want to, I guess. I think I hit the end as what people
consider the
at
end?
This moment know what the end is.
Okay.
And I had to look up a number of the things to kind of get me to that point. There is so much stuff at the end of that where there's just layer on layer on layer on layer that it's like, I don't know how you would ever figure this out, but people have, which is ridiculous. And there's still a lot in there that doesn't make any sense.
So this is gonna be one of those things where like you're following Reddit threads and like stuff for like years after this.
Yep, the Reddit thing is always just like, it's almost all just pictures of somebody like looking at like a board in the floor that has an arrow, and they're like, "Is this anything?"
Oh my god, that's insane.
Yeah, it's I think there's definitely a lot more in there that people have not figured out yet, but
sure.
Other than it's got, maybe it's like the world's biggest red herrings on stuff, I guess. Maybe could be, but
Yeah. So what did you clock in then? Total time invested in that thing? You think?
I don't know. I think I made it to it's pretty close to day 100.
Damn.
And those take a while. Like you're probably playing at least a half hour each per day in that game.
Sure.
Some of them more, some of them less, but on average. But yeah, what a game. It's crazy. Yeah. I love the core gameplay of that so much that I still keep playing. Even at the end, I was still playing it.
Sure.
And it's like, well, I'm not progressing toward solving something or getting any progression in a puzzle or unlocking anything. But I was like, what am I doing?
You just like the experience, right?
Right. It was a really good puzzle. The core gameplay is like drafting different rooms, and then like gaining different resources and spending different resources. So it's very much like a strategy of how you do that.
Sure.
And that part was really fun. But at this point, I have to stop because I'm not gaining anything. It's just like, well, you're just, okay, you filled the house and you got to the last room just like you've done how many times before now. So
you're not picking up new secrets or knowledge or.
Right.
Yeah.
But maybe in a year you check back and be like, okay, what happened to this game? Is there anything new in it? There's like an arcade game in there that says coming soon. So I don't know if they're updating.
Okay.
Then
dude, if they do game within the game, that's gonna be wild.
That would be crazy.
I hovered over that when I was looking at what was on Game Pass, and I was like, "Yeah, not right now." I'm like, I can't. But I did watch some of the gameplay, so I still hear people talking about it.
Yeah, it's a good game. It's one of those games where it does a really good job of kind of nudging you in the right direction, even though to make you think that you're figuring it out, but really the game is just kind of piecing out enough information that the average person can probably figure it out.
But see, that's what that kind of game needs, right? Like if you're going to go like to Myst level of like abstract puzzle solving, like you don't want to have to like make people like download a wiki thread or like buy a textbook to like figure that out. Like that's cool that it like gives you something to like help you through.
Yeah.
While still retaining like the I have no idea aspect of it.
It definitely does stuff like that at the end, toward the end. Because it's like turning words into numbers, and then those numbers you have to turn back into words in certain ciphers. And it's and then figuring out what those words mean. It's
and you're still accomplishing all of this through your notepad and like taking notes.
The ones at the end I had to look up because it was just a whole other level of like I had the notes on what to like. I've had all the notes. I just didn't know how you put them together in the right way. Right. But
well, that's cool though. I mean, it sounds like an interesting game. Like, I just like that type of game is like first person anymore. Like, usually with that sort of game, like an indie level, like that's not the art style you would go for. So I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, and that's true, and especially for a puzzle game because you're looking around everything in the room too.
Yeah.
Which most of it doesn't matter, but
that's actually super smart too. Because like, what's the alternative, right? Like, you do an isometric game and then you have to walk up to something and do a prompt, and like, well, that sucks. Like, now I'm just reading text boxes. So like, it's actually pretty smart that they did the first person thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I like it. I still might play it, and I probably will hate it, but I'll maybe at least give it a try before it leaves Game Pass. So I got an interesting message from Ben on Facebook, and he tipped me off to, I think I told you about this place. It's like electronic repair and sales or whatever. That's like over in my neighborhood that like sells retro games, and how their pricing is like, all right, they're going off of like eBay and price charting and stuff. Anyway, he told me a story, which sounded very similar to one that I explained to him, like we ran into too, where apparently they've got a massive amount of inventory lately that they bought off of a seller, and it's tons of like boxed and rare sealed in some cases, maybe not sealed, but like Super Nintendo stuff. And like they were happily sharing information about how little they paid for all of this and then proceeded to mark it up like shitloads, which reminded me a lot of like a certain guy we ran into who was bragging to us about what he paid for a bunch of Final Fantasy games at some point. And obviously Ben was not a fan, and I was like, yeah, I find that disgusting too. Like, to me, you can't run a community retro shop and only cater to one end of your audience. Like, you need to. I understand that people that run game stores have overhead and real expenses, but that doesn't give you the right to just blindly rob people when you know better. You know, you can't take $30 for a game that you are going to list for $350. And
especially if they're coming to you about it for it.
Correct. Because those people can walk back into your shop too, right?
Right.
Like, I'm not saying you are going to pay them what shit's worth, but you need to pay them enough to justify that. Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't like that shop to begin with because I thought their prices were stupid. Like, they are just stupid. But to find out that that's how they're getting stuff, and like, there's something to be said about like you go to a auction or a garage sale and you pay someone exactly what they're asking for. That is different. Like, and even then, sometimes I've stopped and told people like, hey, like, this is what this thing's worth. Like, I'm not going to buy it off of you, but raise the price. To which, like, most of the time they don't. Like, I've seen people like sometimes put a different sticker on things, but like, to have someone, you're working with, like you said, with your store, and you're just,
they're coming in with an expectation of, getting some value.
Yeah.
Knowing, they're coming to you thinking that have the knowledge to price that and trade it as a trade-in,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah, that's pretty rough.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like that at all. You got to go with the used car model, like dealership model, right? Like, everyone knows they're not getting what they'd get if they sold it themselves, but you're also not getting totally hosed and you're not doing a bunch of the legwork, right? So,
yeah.
But you can't be like pennies on the dollar. That's stupid. So I probably won't buy. I mean, I've never bought from that store anyway, but I probably won't even bother going back in.
I'm surprised that that's like still like happening there. He probably does most of it online, right?
Yeah, I see a lot of ads like on Facebook Marketplace for their stuff because I don't know how else they would attract attention, especially with Rock 30, which is like the main like regional retro chain in our area. Like, they do very well at like getting everyone funneled into their doors. So
yeah, I was on Whatnot the other day, and one of the featured streams on there was Rock 30, and they just have like employees at the shop going, just like looking, just running down all the game cases that they have on display, just asking if anybody's interested in anything. And
interesting. Was it out of the Fargo store? Could you tell?
I don't know that, but yeah, okay. I was surprised.
I know a lot of retro shops are doing that these days, and they'll do like a certain night where it's like, well, we're going to be on Whatnot stream, and it's cool, I guess, but also not an ecosystem I want to get into. But
there was a lot of people in there.
It's just not the same. Go out and find your games, people.
Live from Ryan's garage.
No, that's an idea. Yeah. Well, last epic I had, we brought it up last time, but I think there's been some interesting developments. As we talked about how Games Press, Polygon, and Giant Bomb had basically been acquired and being gutted. And the damnedest thing happened. And Giant Bomb is now independent again, which I guess they hadn't been for like over a decade. And the craziest thing to me is that Dan Reichert is one of the 5 people who own this thing now, which I don't know if you watched him on the stream with Jeff Gerstmann, but even Jeff Gerstmann was like, sure, why wouldn't Dan Reichert own Giant Bomb? Which is hilarious. And like, they've explained, like they announced it all at PAX. It was supposed to be a Giant Bomb panel, which then turned into an announcement panel because apparently like everyone else quit. Mike Minotti was like a freelancer who had left. Dan Reichert quit. So basically it was Jeff Grubb and Jeff Bakalar who were left still employed by Fandom. And they somehow negotiated from a very large company the option to purchase back their website and community, which is, that doesn't happen. I don't know how much it was for or anything, but basically they turned it into like now 5 people run what is now Giant Bomb, which you could argue isn't Giant Bomb, but it's the new Giant Bomb. And I guess it's the people that have been there for a couple of years. So cool to see, I guess.
Yeah,
Just
I
didn't think it was
suppose
gonna happen.
they were, basically saying like, this is worth nothing at this point. What happened now? You
Right.
know,
Because
what are
yeah,
you
the
doing
brand
with
was
this?
the people, right?
Yeah, so it's worth nothing. You might as well just sell it to us. And I guess that's competition. You have to get something for it, but yeah, that's crazy.
It is crazy. It is pretty nuts. I would love to see them like start bringing back. I know that like obviously there's Nextlander and Gersman has his own thing, but I would love to see them start doing things. And apparently like All Systems Goku is coming back in some form. I don't know on whose channel or platform. They've already brought back Quick Looks. They brought back Blight Club, which is, say what you want about New Giant Bomb, Blight Club is probably one of the best things that they've ever done. It's just so much a Dan Reichert idea too, but like I love Blight Club. I'll watch that.
Yep, that's fun.
But the weird thing is too, is like I know they said they've had a big groundwell of support and people like resubscribing, but like I'm not going to subscribe because like they'd already like moved their content for the most part to free or on YouTube at a later date. So it's probably not going to change my viewing habits at all. I mean, I'm happy that it's happening. And also, did you watch when they brought back the first voicemail dump truck?
Oh no.
Oh God. It was
Didn't
the
work
greatest.
out or what?
No, it was
Oh.
the greatest. This is the reason why Giant Bomb has to continue, because during that voicemail dump truck, after like, I just love that these 5 men have gambled their entire careers on like purchasing this thing as co-owners together. And they're all 5 on there when Dan Reichert asked, wait, is Filipino and the Philippines related? And it's just complete silence.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just like, everyone on that podcast has to be like, I just hitched my train. Like this guy owns 20% of this thing that I just signed on to. It was great.
Right.
It was like the most Dan Reichert moment.
You wonder how much that, like, it can't have been that much money, because why wouldn't they just all walk away and just name it something else similar or something, right?
Right. Because they're established video game journalist veterans, but what does that mean anymore? Right. So it's like, yeah, you assume none of them are like exponentially wealthy. So like, I think if they paid, I can't imagine they even paid $1 million for that website. Like,
Oh yeah, doubt it.
but yeah, we'll see what happens. I guess it's like preserving a legacy brand that you did kind of like, that was like, I don't know. Again, I'm with a lot of people. Like I left when the people I liked left. Dan Reichert was one of them and he came back. But at that point, like the soul of what Giant Bomb was gone. I'll still just go to Nextlander and listen to Fire Escape and get my fix there. But
And they just, I mean, they lost a lot when COVID hit, because
yes,
I mean, they all used to be in the office, and
yes. Yeah, having them
stuff
on camera,
face to
right.
face. Yeah, and all the studio stuff that they did, which was crazy, and yeah, it just kind of changed a lot after that.
And 5 salaries, to pay for. I mean, that's something. I mean, it's a lot. I've even like, I've kind of kept tabs on what Nextlander has been able to do, and they've still held fairly well to where they landed when they first came out of the gate. But granted, there's only 3 of them. You know what I mean? Like, and they were set up pretty well, like each banking like 200,000 like before taxes their first year. But I don't know.
Yep.
I watched. There was a MinMax today, where it was just Dan and whatever the main guy, Drew Scanlon from MinMax. And it was kind of a good interview because Drew's kind of like busting his balls on like expectations and like realities. And like Reichert was pretty much like, I will take a huge pay cut. Like as long as I can pay my mortgage, I don't care. I just want to do things that I think people will enjoy for our community. And I was like, okay, that's cool, but give it a year. See how
Yeah.
cool that feels then. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish them all the best. And I'll continue to watch some of their stuff, but
Mhm.
I am happy the giant bomb didn't die, like Polygon.
Yep. It's a good outcome.
Yeah.
The best you could ask for, really.
It's the Air Force Gator of outcomes.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, if you don't have anything else, I guess it's time for our staff picks, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you go with yours because I know what yours is. I think.
Yeah. We've been rewatching some of the Mission Impossible movies to gear up for the final one, which I think is in theaters now. I've not seen it, but
Sounds right.
or soon, one of the two. And you know what? I came to the conclusion that I think, for me, they've topped the Fast and the Furious franchise for like big dumb action.
Yeah, that's a very low bar, but I haven't seen them past. I don't know if I've even seen past 4, but I would agree that they're probably more logical movies.
Yeah, and after, I mean, 4 through 7 or 8 or whatever they're at now are exceptional. Like they're really good.
Nice. The ones that virtually nobody has watched, or at least I haven't.
Yeah, they keep making them. They must make money.
Wasn't 6 the one where he like almost killed himself, like doing a stunt that like went wrong off a helicopter?
Yeah, that one's crazy.
Yeah.
The helicopter stuff in that is just like, it's kind of nuts. It's, and that's, say what you want about all the, Tom Cruise like does his stunts. Like he's like, I'm in this, I'm putting my money in this movie. I'm doing the stunts. And then you look at the Fast and Furious side and they're just like, everybody's like
CGs,
petty and squabble. Yeah. They just,
Yeah, you're right. Like the feuding on set. Yeah. Well, I mean, Tom Cruise did have that like whole COVID meltdown. Like,
yeah,
we're gonna shut this thing down. Like,
I wonder, was that Mission Impossible movie?
Yeah, 100% it was. Or if it wasn't, still ridiculous. Hearing like a 4'5" man scream that loudly at adults is wonderful.
Yeah. Yep. It is true. It is funny watching like some shots that they can't hide that fact.
Right.
That he's basically
a midget.
Yeah, compared to a lot of other things. And but dollar for dollar, they're probably where it's at for high budget action.
That's surprising to me because I just like I don't think I cared after 2. Like I honestly was almost oblivious to the fact that they kept making them for the longest time. And like, whatever.
2 is like a whole that one is like crazy bad.
I just remember like 2 like figuring out. I just remember figuring out the plot point and like what was going to happen in 2 like halfway through the movie. I was like, oh, they're going to do that, aren't they? And then they did, and then I was like, okay. Yeah, 2 might have actually been the last one I watched. Maybe I'm sure I saw 3 at some point, but
3 is really good because it has Philip Seymour Hoffman, and he is does a really good villain in that movie.
Yeah, he's a great actor. Well, maybe I'll have to revisit some of these. We're waiting, for Fast X 2 all their years, so I have time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I think I don't think it really built up into being like a super climactic, like, oh, we're at the final one, It just seemed like, oh, there's just another villain, and we've turned it into 2 movies this time. But
it's because they got to leave stuff open for the fact that it could come back at some point. You know what I mean?
It could be. They say this is the last one, that one in the theater, but
nothing's ever the last one.
No.
Interesting. It's funny you mentioned Fast and the Furious because I got a screenshot from my daughter last week. Apparently they'd been assigned a thing where they had to like compare school staff to actors or celebrities. And then she sends me a screenshot of this like paragraph she wrote about her teacher. And I can't remember the teacher's name. She's like, he would be Vin Diesel. First of all, and most importantly, because he's bald. And then it was like, oh, like slamming the teacher with that. And then it was like something about, I don't know what the other thing was. And then like, and lastly, because he loves his family. I was like, that's pretty awesome.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
So I'm like, as long as the teacher doesn't kill you from the first jab.
Yeah. Yeah. At least you don't end on the bald one.
Right. So I watched, mine's a movie too. This is weird. I worked from home yesterday because lazy, but I had YouTube on in the background, and then this movie came on because, you know, YouTube doesn't just like logically transition into like YouTube content anymore. It goes to like the freemium movies. And before I even realized it was happening, I was watching this movie called the Pez Outlaw. And apparently this is a documentary from like 2022, I think, what I read. But anyway, it's like this story about this guy who is like, he became like the bootleg Pez seller guy that supplied all the collectors in the United States, because apparently I didn't know this, but Pez USA controls all rights to distribute Pez and manufacturing within the US. But then like the European markets, mostly in like Russia and former Soviet satellite countries, control distribution to literally the rest of the world. Right. So like there was a whole market where they were manufacturing anything they like, all this shit over there, but it was never getting to the US. So all these like Pez collectors in the US were like fiending for this stuff. Right. And like, it's this movie where you just like follow this like weird, like they say he's like autistic and bipolar dude. He's like crazy, right? Like apparently he got to start collecting cereal boxes, and then he realized that he could go to the recycling factory and get boxes there from his community. But then he also realized he could exploit the mail-in freemium toys and stuff that used to be around when we were kids, right? Like send in 4 box tops or UPCs and get this thing. So he did that and exploited the shit out of it to the point where he was able to quit his job and become a toy seller at toy fairs, because he just had so much free shit getting mailed to him, to the point where he's actually the guy, well, or a big proponent of why when you see stuff like that on cereal boxes anymore these days, it's always one per household, because the guy just like made an income off of exploiting these things. And then eventually when that dried up because of the change in policy for most of these companies, he somehow like saw somebody selling Pez and was like, that's my next thing. And then he sort of, I gotta make sure I didn't screw up OBS. He sort of realizes that this whole thing's going on with the European market in Pez. So having like basically been like a dirt poor, destitute, like struggling through life American, he just like scrapes up enough money, and his like teenage son convinces him to like, we're just gonna fly to Russia. And this is like this is like late 80s, early 90s, before like anything exists to make that easy or whatever, and the whole world's a completely different state. And they just fly over there and like rent a car and like track down headquarters. It's a Soviet country. So they walk in, show a few $100, buy a bunch of Pez directly from the manufacturer and bring it back. And then US Customs detains them, right? And they're like, you don't have the rights to do this. You're not the distributor of this. So they go to look it up. And apparently Pez never registered their trademark with Customs for the United States. So they were not on the books as being the sole importer and provider of the United. So he finds this loophole, and like the whole movie is about how this guy's just like doing like this whole like almost like espionage, this like Cold War thing where he's just like flying over like Hungary and like buying stuff off of like CEOs directly from the factory there, and just makes bank. And like all the while he's a thorn in the side of the actual Pez USA, which I can't imagine he hurt their actual business, because like collectors, you know what I mean? Like Pez is a kid's toy for the most part. But it all like, it's a great movie, and it all escalates to the point where he realizes that like he's going to go legit. None of this like smuggling back and forth, because he basically got blacklisted because Pez America like blackballed him over there. So what he does is he just gets together like $500,000, works directly with the Pez and the Soviet era countries, and was like, here's what I want you to do. Make these weird color variants for me ship them to Taiwan for packaging and bring them back to the United States, and I'll sell them, which he fucking does. So this guy like works his way up to like he's getting on card like brand new sealed product. And he said it like worked out to like he was paying $5 a piece for these things. And then he's like, in that first year I did that, he's like, I made $1 million. And he has a company of like 5 people, including his son. They're like advertising in newspapers and stuff, going to conventions. And then finally Pez gets around to it and like puts an, I won't spoil the whole thing, but like it's pretty wild. It's like this weird story of like this sub collecting culture. And it was funny because my wife caught like the end of it. And like they're talking about like conventions and stuff. She's just like, they'll have conventions for anything, won't they? I'm like, hey, yes, they will. But yeah, a pretty wild story. There's a really hilarious scene because this guy's old now and his wife's old, and I think she's got Parkinson's or whatever, like so she can barely open her eyes. And then they're asking like how they met, and she's like, no, it wasn't love at first sight, it was lust. Like the sex was so good. I was like, goo. Oh, wow. We don't need to know this. Like, good. Too much information. But yeah, it's free on YouTube and other places. I'm sure it's a pretty wild story, and it's done really well. Like they put the time and energy into like interview the right people and like actually do like shots and stuff. Like going back and doing flashbacks. So it's a pretty entertaining watch, to be quite honest. But who knew there was this whole seedy underbelly of Pez, right?
Right. I mean, you could make a documentary of just Pez collectors, and that would be a whole other like brainworm to be like, what's up with these people, Yeah.
Yeah.
As you were talking about it, I was just thinking, is Pez the first like Funko Pop? Like, is
kinda right?
Yeah.
I can't think of another thing because like even as we were kids, like early high school, I knew about like Pez was like blowing up and stuff, and yeah, pretty interesting.
I can't think of another like toy that was like the same across everything, but was all your favorite characters,
Yeah, that's very true. I think you're right. And it had terrible candy that you could put inside of it.
Yeah. Think of how much candy those people have. Like you think about their wall is just already they're pretty ugly because they take up like the only cool part about them is the top.
Yes,
I think.
I agree.
And then the bottom is just like an ugly long stick. It's like what a disgusting thing to have on your wall, but people have it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too because like you watch all the people they interview and they're like showing their collections, and all of them have them unboxed. Like so, there must be some reason as to why you take them out of the packaging. Like there must be like some chemical reaction or something, but it's like, yeah,
gotta get the candy out of there.
Right. Got to recoup some of this money, but yeah, I don't know. It's pretty wild. I would have never picked it to watch had YouTube not thrown it up while I was in the middle of a few emails, but it was pretty cool.
And see, I'm jealous because my YouTube, for whatever reason, it will constantly replay the same GameSack episodes that I've seen over and over and over again, and I don't understand it.
Yeah, I haven't watched GameSack in forever, but he does that to me some, where like the next up is like something I watched like 3 days ago. I don't know why.
Yep.
That algorithm is jacked. Plus, can we just touch on for a second too how shitty the ads are now, where they like frame them and context them in the same way as a thumbnail you would click on. So you click on it and it goes to a link. Like, can YouTube not like restrain themselves somewhat a little bit? Good Lord.
Yeah. And the whole like click the button to go to the next ad, and then it'll say skip, and then sometimes it doesn't skip, and then
that platform is just god awful with ads anymore. I mean, that's not even considering like the in video ad reads that are in everything. So
Ryan, it's time for an ad break, isn't it?
Oh, sure. Yes, let's go. All right, so let's talk about the weekend rental. For those unfamiliar, it's a game we play for a given system. We'll give it a playthrough and then decide whether we would personally buy, rent, or burn that game. This go around, this was on arcade and the TurboGrafx PC engine that is Galaga 88. Yeah, I don't know. What did you think of this thing, Andy?
I played Galaga 90, so it's way different.
Did you?
No, it's just the TurboGrafx version. They
Is that
named
what?
it.
Oh, that's
It
maybe
came
that's
out
why I
later.
was struggling. Okay, yes,
Came out later, and then yeah, they had to rename it to 90, which I think
makes
they made a
sense.
Game Gear one that was like 92 or something. It's all the same game. But
Right.
um, yeah, it's they updated Galaga in some pretty cool ways,
Yes.
I would say, but not enough to do like a Donkey Kong 94 like total reinvention. It still felt
Yes.
like, oh, I'm still locked down to the rules of Galaga and kind of the basics of that. How about you? What do you think?
Yeah, that's kind of the feeling I had. Like I had played it before and I remembered like the scroll because Galaga is like a one single screen shooter, right? Like kind of the OG outside of Space Invaders. I would say Galaga is the first one that people really, when you think of shooters, that's the big one, right? Like that's to me the starting point before they became vertical and horizontal scrolling. And the first time you encounter a stage where there's vertical scrolling, it's awesome, right? Like it's like, oh, this is a huge change. Then you get to like boss battles, but then there's also these like weird parts in between where you stop and do like a traditional single screen clear, which is all a ton of fun. But you're right, they kind of botched the execution and like they bury the lead on that pretty heavily, and they limit what stages do that. It's pretty much only like end stages on zones. Um, I like that they give you the option to pick a single ship or two ships up front. I think that can really sway to your advantage if you're a skilled player. I think it's the best version of Galaga, right? Like if you're going to play a Galaga, this would probably be the version I would want to gravitate towards because I feel like maybe there's like some payoff and progression where, you know, traditional Galaga is just always single screen and there's not a lot going on in the backgrounds because that's what this brings, right? It's like the visual punch, some cool like mechanics as far as like fireworks and like in on-screen obstacles. But you're right, fundamentally, this is still very much just Galaga.
Yeah, and there are some updates, like you said, but those are probably only half the game. For the most,
Yeah.
for the other half, you are just doing the Galaga thing. Provided there are some new enemies, even in the single stage screens, but it's for the most part that getting your ship to 3 shots is kind of amazing in this game.
Yes.
But I mean, that's for the most part, that's all your lives at the beginning of the game.
That is a huge risk reward. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, you can start with 2 ships, and then usually in the first level, you can get sucked up and get your ship back, and it turns into a 3 shot, which is all your lives, and it's pretty amazing. It clears the screen in record time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know what the warp thing is. So there's these like blue little canisters you can get.
Right. I never figured that out either.
And then I got 2 of them, and then it sent me on a warp, which I assumed was like skipping one of the levels.
Well, like,
but I don't think it did.
There's different tracks I noticed in between like stages, and it must send you to different layers. But yeah, I never really figured that out either. I also have an issue with the 3 ship sprite in that I think it looks less like a ship and more just like a giant nipple at the bottom of the screen, which I'm not a fan of. So they could have done better on that.
I mean, it should be 3 of them laid.
Yeah, 100%, right?
Yeah.
I guess maybe that's the thing. Is like it's so OP. Like the advantage is it's like less space than 2 ships, but it's 3 ships, and
yeah, because you're shooting basically like 20% of the screen at that point.
This game continues the thing that I think hampers Galaga in general is that patterns are very erratic and shots fired are very small. And it's a game where you very much have to play with your eyes on the upper field and not the lower field. So you just inevitably end up in these like situations where you're just dying because you can't afford to be watching where the shots are going and still progress through the game. And you know, you do get in a rhythm. You do find it and you kind of know how things are going to work, but it's still just, it kind of grinds to those like Galaga is very much a game where it's like, if you fucked up once, that's your run. You know what I mean? Galaga's
yeah.
Galaga's a game about never die. Like a lot of shooters are, right? But like Galaga is very dependent on like you don't fuck up.
And especially like bonus levels, getting
Yes.
enough points to get new ships and stuff like that. That's really what you need to do to
Yes.
get anywhere in that game. Yeah.
Which those like bonus sections in this game with like the dancing ships or whatever, those patterns suck. Like compared to original Galaga, you could somewhat anticipate where they were coming in on, but like Jesus Christ, it was like zigzags all over the place. Like I think by the third one, I managed like 12 ships out of 50. It was just not even worth my time. I should have just not even played and like saved my thumb.
Yep.
Yeah. It could have done a lot more to keep Galaga in the realm of like shooter. Some new visuals are a lot, that goes a long way. Because the first game is very basic, but I wish there was more of like the new scrolling stuff and less of the traditional and the difficulty, man. Holy hell, the difficulty.
Yeah. Yeah. This one is way, way harder than the original. That's
especially if you want to see the fun stuff. Because like it's not easy to get there. You got to get to 8 stages before you see like, the first scrolling. So
and then the bosses a little bit after that. But
can we talk about how that's not very satisfying either? Like you want the big explosion, right? Like that's the thing with the boss. Like you want it to just you don't want it to like buzz off the screen like that. Come on, give me something here.
Yeah. It's have you played any of like they had to have like made a Galaga DX or something?
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Like Championship Edition. Like I've never played any of those, and I'm kind of wondering like what their takes were on that to be like we're bringing Galaga because they were trying to integrate things that games were already doing this at this point, like scrolling shooters and stuff like that. Like Gradius was already out at this point. So what are we trying to accomplish on that end? If they were trying to, I don't know if that was their big take.
It's less egregious than like the Super Nintendo and Game Boy versions of Space Invaders, where they just added like color palettes, I guess. But they tried a little harder here. But yeah, you're right. Like there was like the blueprints already to do different stuff. So and like I can't say for the life of me that I've ever seen this actual arcade machine. Have you?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Which is surprising. Like that seems like an easy sell to arcade owners to be like the follow-up. Other than maybe having it seem like it was going to be outdated in another year.
Right. And like not visually from the opening screens looking any better really than like, wow, this is still just the game. So yeah. I don't know. What do you think you give it on the Byron Burn scale then?
I'm a little torn on this one because I think it's one of the best versions of Galaga I've ever played.
Yeah.
But it's when you put it in the time frame of what it is, even if you're counting arcade at 88, like it's tough to be like, well, you could have done more. Or this was your best take to bring Galaga to the next generation. So it's going to be a really high rent for me, I think. I really like it and I enjoy the game. I think Galaga is probably one of my favorite classic games. So this one really resonated with me. I just think that's why I kind of wanted to see. I kind of want to go back and see what they did with even like very new versions of Galaga. Like, what is their idea to really push this into the next thing, like Pac-Man Championship did,
Right. Yeah, I struggle with this one too, because like I could go either way, but I think at the end of the day, like as great as this version of Galaga is, like when you compare it to like you said, what was out then, like this is the console also when we're looking at TurboGrafx, it has like blazing lasers and like man, like this is a really great version of Galaga and I like what they did. I think they could have pushed it farther, but it does not compare to where shooters had evolved to at that point. Is it a really cool update on a early arcade game? Yes. Does it make it exponentially better or different than the original iteration? Well, and mean, really, Galaxian was the first one. So like Galaga was already the update. And like this is just not substantial enough on top of that to really make it more than a well recommended rend.
Right. When the best upgrade is just it's 3 ships now.
Right. And every 8 levels you get some scrolling. Yay.
Yep. For 30 seconds. And
yeah.
then
And asteroids, which screw you and pin you in the corners if you can't blow them up.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's another one, huh?
That's gonna do it. We have an email address.
Mm.
So weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com. Tell us your favorite flavor of Pez, because those are distinct. I think some of them, I usually like that flavor in other candies, but in Pez, they don't got it.
No. Lemon's
So,
the best. Lemon for sure.
You know, maybe it is. I don't like lemon in other flavors, so maybe that's the killer one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're also on Blue Sky, and make sure you check out the Geekade Patreon, where we do a movie podcast, as well as all of our friends have good podcasts over there.
Mm-hmm.
And until next time, be kind, rewind.